So do you know that having your own money as a woman does not necessarily guarantee that you're not going to be abused in your relationship? And this is coming from a woman who strongly believes in the power of financial independence for women when it comes to being able to decenter yourself from, patriarchy and men and all that. I know that this might be a controversial take, but I want us to break down what I mean by this because it's important for us to understand this. Because a lot of us that are talking about the need for women to be independent, we just focus on the financial side of things, but we're not looking at every other part of the equation that makes financial empowerment an effective tool in the lives of women. So the thing is this: a woman can be financially independent, but her husband or her partner will be working all over her. But on the flip side, you can also see a woman who doesn't even have any money to her name, but the man in her life knows that he dares not cross certain boundaries. And so, what is it that is the root cause of this kind of dynamics where one has money and is helpless, and one doesn't even have money and is so powerful? It is because the greatest fear of men or patriarchy is not a woman who has money. Their greatest fear is a woman who knows her worth and will never allow herself to be walked all over or to be broken into. So let's break down the nitty gritty of what I mean by this. I'm going to share a whole ton of examples so that you understand why financial independence alone is not enough. We have been conditioned by patriarchy to center men before any other thing. So when a woman is trying to live her own life or chase the things that matter to her, she's often labeled as selfish. She's labeled as a rebel and all that. And so because of that, by default, many of us tend to, just want to fall in line, do what society expects, so that we're not going to be called a bad girl or a bad woman who is deceiving other people. And so you see many women who bend over backwards to do whatever it takes to align with whatever the man in their life wants. So, for example, you see a woman, she's wealthy, she has money, she has landed property, and maybe if men are not coming her way, you will see her, she'll go and pick one man who doesn't have anything, and she's going to brush him up and clean him and set him up with the hopes that he's going to be so grateful and, they will live happily ever after and she'll become the queen of his life. But unfortunately, those kind of arrangements hardly ever work out. Once a man finds out that he has been set up by this woman who is obviously financially independent, he can flip it on her and begin to treat her like trash. So you see women complaining. See all those stories on social media, and you'll be like, oh, I did this for him. I even paid for this for him. I bought him a shop. I did that, and he slapped me and he hit me. So we see that such people they have the money, but they don't have what it takes on the inside. Another example is you see a woman that has all the money. She's the one that is even the major breadwinner of the family. But when she buys cars for herself, for example, she'll say, oh, my husband bought it. Anything that is done that has to do with money, they will give the man credit so that she will kind of stoke the man's ego and make him feel better. Who says it must be the man that will be the provider? So you see that narrative of men are providers and women have to depend, it still feeds into that whole kind of arrangement. So that's another example. Another example is a woman that will work so hard, she has a good job and all that, and she will, at the end of the day, she will submit her salary to her husband so that she'll be tagged a good woman, or so that peace will reign, or so that the man will not leave her and say, oh, she's just being unsubmissive. So why would that be the case? So in some instances, such men may be working. So they hold on to their salary and then they take that of the woman, or they want to dictate how her own will be spent. So at the end of it all, if there's a divorce or whatever, who gets the short end of the stick? The woman is the one that ends up missing out. So you see that woman, like I said, has the money, but she's still bound by the mindset of patriarchy. Another example is you can see a woman that will have a lucrative job, and then her husband will tell her, oh, maybe leave that job and come and be a stay-at-home mom. I'm not comfortable with you working so many long hours, right? And such a woman will leave. Or it may be a woman that has a good job in one city, she wants to get married, and then the person that she's getting married to may have a job that is paying mega salary. And the man will be like, I'm not moving to that city. If you want to be my wife, you have to give up that your job and come over to this city, and even give up that your house, and come and live in a one room and parlor apartment with me, so that I will be the man, so that I can be the husband. So you find out that such women have the money, they have the capacity, they have the the career potentials, but many of such women end up giving up those things just to answer wife and mother. Another final example I'm going to give is you see a woman who will refuse to buy landed property. She's very wealthy, she's comfortable as a single lady, but she's afraid of buying landed property, or even if she has it, she will not talk about it because she's afraid of chasing men away because she wants to attract men into her life. So why is it that we have to shrink ourselves in order to make men feel comfortable? So when you have that kind of mindset, or these kinds of mindset I've talked about, if you have not detoxed yourself from patriarchal expectations, no matter how much you make, no matter how many millions you have in your account, you are very, very prone to being abused by a man. Even as the Bible says, when the foundation is broken, what can the righteous do? So as long as you have not fixed that foundational issue of how you see yourself, what you think your boundaries and limitations are as a woman, and what you think you are allowed to do or not, once you have not tackled those foundational issues, you can have all the money and that will not save you. So you see many women who are holding the very vital key of financial independence, but they are unable to use it and come out of that prison. They'll be holding that key and crying for someone to come and save them, but nobody is going to save you. Bible says that you shall know the truth and the truth will set you free. So what you need to be doing at this point, if you have found yourself in that situation, you need to build up your emotional intelligence, study, listen to other women who are speaking up about these things, understand what your basic human rights are, understand what are the triggers, things that trigger you, and what are the boundaries that you want to put up for yourself. What are your values? So if you know what your human rights are, if you know what your values are, then you'll be able to understand what are the things that trigger you and what are the boundaries that you need to put in place when those triggers show up. That will help you when it comes to choosing who you are going to be in a relationship with, or even if you're in a relationship already, that will help you to determine what you're willing to take and what you're not willing to take, and to stand up for yourself. Because when you stand up for yourself consistently, the person will either choose to to conform or get out, and that's fine as well. Another thing you need to be working on is to ground yourself spiritually. Anchor yourself in truth, in faith and purpose, not religion or traditions. So if you pride yourself as being a spiritual person or a believer or whatever, you need to go back and say, okay, what is it that I actually believe in? What are my core values? And what does the Bible, especially if you're a Christian, what does the Bible really say about my worth as a human, as a woman? When you understand these things, you're not going to be someone that is easily moved around by pastors and people that are preaching things that are not in line with who you are or who God says you are. Then you also need to be looking into building, finding community support. Because as you decenter patriarchy and men, you'll find that you begin to ask yourself sometimes, is something wrong with me? Maybe am I doing too much? But when you begin to connect with people of like minds and compare and contrast your stories, you begin to see some of the things that you allowed because you thought it was normal. You begin to see that it's not normal and it's not okay. So you need that. And a lot of times they'll be like, women love to gossip, this and that. So they'll try to separate us so we don't gather and compare our experiences. But I'm encouraging you, find women, not women who are still centering men. Find women who are thinking the way you need to begin to think. Read books, listen to podcasts from women that are, freed, so that you can have a community to fall back on when it gets overwhelming, because it's not easy to go against the tide. The normal thing to do is to go with the flow of patriarchy, but it's very difficult if you want to fight against it for yourself. And then finally, you also need to, get mental clarity. Learn to spot manipulation, coercion, and gaslighting early. So these are some of the skills you need to be working on. So beyond financial independence, work on emotional, spiritual, intellectual, work on every side of yourself. Because Bible says that Jesus grew in wisdom and he grew in stature and in favor with God and man. So he was growing in a well-rounded manner. So in order for you to overcome when it comes to decentering men and making your finances an effective key, you need to grow in a rounded manner. So just let me know what you think in the comment section. I'll see you in my next video.